Hello, and welcome back to Conquering Finale. My name is Jason Lafredo, and today we're looking at the latest maintenance update for Finale, Finale 27.4. And boy, oh boy, it's the little things that count. The major thing here is that Finale 27.4 is now Sonoma compatible. Now, I'm not on Sonoma, but I've heard from Philip Rothman at New York City Music Services that he has tried 27.4 on Sonoma, and all is good to go. So I'm sure that it actually is. But other than that, there are 20 bug fixes in this version, which is actually quite a lot for Finale as far as bug fixes go. I haven't seen this many fixes in a Finale update in quite some time, so that is pretty significant. And I'm putting those all on the screen right now, and I will put chapters in the YouTube video so that you can jump around to look at the ones that you want to if you're really interested. But again, there's 20 fixes. A couple of these are actually sort of new feature-ish. I mean, it's very small features, so we'll talk about that. I'm not going to demonstrate every single one of these, but I will talk about them all. There are a few that I definitely do want to demonstrate and show you because they are significant and worth talking about. And again, as far as bug fixes in Finale goes, everybody has their pet bugs, things that bug them more than anything. You just can't understand why Finale does it a certain way, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I have that too. I feel like this update, there's a little bit for everybody in here. It's maybe not going to get your pet bug, but I can guarantee there's one or two things in here that, probably bug you that got fixed, which is really cool. So without further ado, let me just get into all of these 20 fixes. I will go through them sequentially. Again, I'll just talk about a few of them, and some of them I will actually demonstrate. So the first is that it fixed an issue where grace notes can cause the screen to go blank. And by the way, this text that I'm reading from is literally the README notes for the 27.4 update. So number one, fix an issue where grace notes can cause the screen to go blank. I don't want to demonstrate this. It's one of those bugs that appears on the Finale forums on Facebook all the time. Your screen just goes blank on a certain page for no apparent reason, and it's always been that a grace note defined with a tuplet would cause the screen to go blank. Apparently this has been fixed. Again, I didn't test this out, but I trust that that is the case. Number two, tool palettes now retain their location when entering and exiting full screen mode and using a second monitor. Again, in the little time that I've had, I haven't really noticed this fix at all, but I'm assuming that it is good to go as well. But that's the second bug fix here. Number three, the Times font no longer incorrectly populates font lists. Yeah, this was an issue, especially if you're on a Mac. I think maybe only if you're on a Mac, where the Times font was sort of messing up the order of the fonts in a lot of your menus. And the problem with that is that you would select one font and get another font. The solution was to actually reinstall the Times font. Apparently that has been fixed as well. Again, I can't test this because I've already gone through that patch, so hopefully that is the case. Number four, symbols can now more easily be inserted into the lyrics window. And for this, I will just demonstrate this. Let me just go into my lyrics tool here. And it was always the case that you could actually go in and type, and use the shortcut Command-Option-Shift-S to do an insert symbol here. And you'd see your symbol list for the entire font. So you can just, insert an option there, and you'll see that get put in my lyrics here. Let me just zoom in there. So that's always worked with that insert symbol. But the problem was if you actually did it within the lyrics window, it wouldn't work. So now you can Command-Option-Shift-S and choose whatever and press select, and you'll see that it will actually put it there in the lyrics window and in the appropriate place in the score. So that has been fixed. That was a little minor bug related specifically to the lyrics window. Number five is the Add Instrument button in Score Manager now works correctly on Mac OS Sonoma. Yeah, that was sort of the major reason for not upgrading to Sonoma with 27.3, but apparently that has been fixed. Number six, tuplet handles can now be moved without issue while in page view. Yeah, this was always like one of those problems that was just so super annoying. I'm sure that you've experienced this. I'm not sure if it was a Mac and Windows issue. It's definitely a Mac issue. But now when you grab that tuplet handle, it just moves smoothly. There's no delay or anything. You can also do it with the tuplet tool. If I can get in there, yeah, the handle will just move nice and smoothly. The arrow buttons work nice and smoothly. There was always a really annoying delay there. One of those bugs you may not notice all the time, but that's actually going to be a great improvement going forward, I think. So that was number six. Number 7, a print window option has been added to allow for printing in true black. Yeah, this was an interesting problem that Philip with Scoring Notes noticed and actually wrote a whole article about. I'll try and post that in the video description. But in some circumstances, when you print to PDF, Finale would not produce true blacks, and you'd sort of get this grayish color, which could be a problem with certain printers because it would actually use some of the color ink. And you really don't want to do that if you have a color printer. You want it to only use the black ink. And so that has been fixed. And the fix for this actually adds a new option. If you go into the print window on a Mac at least, all the way down here, you see this option where it says use RGB, and that is selected. This is the way that Finale had been working previously. So by default, this will be selected. So if you do print to PDFs with this selected, you're going to get the RGB version of the black, which comes out a little bit grayish. It's not true black for some printers. It gets a little bit technical, but for some printers you do want to use RGB. But for many other printers you want to use what's called CMYK coloring. And basically by unchecking this and saving to PDF, you're using the CMYK coloring instead of the RGB coloring, which means that those PDFs now come out as true black in the CMYK color scheme, which will be better for certain printers because it won't use that color ink. So this option is now available. Again, by default, it will be checked so that it behaves the old way. This is sort of traditional in Finale. Things are set the old way until you fix it or manually change it for the fix, right? So again, just be aware of that. That's what that is. Checked is use RGB, unchecked is use CMYK coloring. Number 8, and this is actually a new feature, a keyboard shortcut has been added for an elision in lyrics and text. This is actually a great little additional feature. If I just zoom in here to my little OO val here, we can go into the lyrics tool and just, if I'm going to type in the lyrics after the word OO here, there we go, get my cursor there. If you go into the text menu, what you'll notice now is this new option here, Insert Elision, and it's Option Shift Command Dash, right? These other ones, by the way, have always been here. Insert Hard Spaces, Option Spacebar. I don't know why the shortcut's not showing up there, but Insert Hard Hyphen is Option Dash, and Insert Elision is now Option Shift Command Dash. And what that will do is exactly what you think, Command Option Shift Dash. You'll see the small elision, and then I can enter a new lyric there. And you'll see that, if I zoom in just enough for you, you'll see that the elision has been added. This is going to be a huge deal to people that write lyrics in foreign languages. And what's really cool about this, the elision character only exists in the Finale lyrics font. But even if you're using a different font, and you can see that I'm using Times New Roman for my font in the lyrics here, what Finale does is it actually temporarily switches to the Finale lyrics just for that character. You can see I've highlighted that elision. Hopefully you can see that. And you see now it says Finale lyrics 12. If I just arrow over, it goes back to Times New Roman 12. So that's really cool. It will temporarily change to the appropriate Finale lyrics font to give you that elision. So that is definitely a new feature. It is Option Shift Command Dash, and I believe it's probably Control Alt Shift Dash on a Windows. So there you go. That is definitely a new feature. Incidentally, that works typing into the score as I just demonstrated, or typing directly into the lyrics window. It will work there as well. Number 9, tooltips for palettes now work properly on Mac OS Sonoma when changing the palette's shape. Sure, I'll just have to take their word for that. That one I did not particularly check. Number 10, this is a big one. Copyable staff styles are now copied to parts when copy and pasting in the score. This has sort of been a long time. I sometimes hesitated to call it a bug, just sort of a poorly designed feature. What happened was if you take a staff style like I have in my flute here and simply copy and paste it to another set of bars here, in bar 7 and 8, what Finale used to do is I think it used to not assume that you wanted to copy the staff style applied to the same places, because as you know, staff styles can be applied to the score and the parts, or just the score, or just the parts. So when you did this, what Finale quote-unquote assumed is that you only wanted to copy it in the place where you're copying and pasting it. So if these two bars of slashes were assigned to the score and the parts, and you copied it just in the score, then it would only be assigned to the score. I think that was the rationale behind it because, again, you can have different staff styles between the score and parts for these measures, so maybe they just didn't want to assume that you wanted it in both places. But it was sort of a really bad assumption because most of the time, 99.5% of the time, you do want it to copy in both places. So now they've fixed that assumption, I guess. I guess they're calling it a bug, but they fixed that assumption so that now when you go into your flute part, you'll see that the slashes now do appear in bar 7 and 8. And you don't have to go into that thing with the staff styles and choose, I have to be in the staff tool here. You could always fix this by going here and choosing use selected staff style for score and parts. That would filter the staff style from the score into the parts. So this quote unquote bug has now been fixed. So for a lot of us that use these slash and 1 bar repeat staff style, this is actually a huge deal because we no longer have those issues of having to fix our drum parts, guitar parts, etc. To get the slashes to appear in both the score and the parts. Number 11, back ending brackets and repeat text endings are now added to the score and parts properly. Now, I don't actually remember the circumstance for when this happens. I know that it did happen. It was something that people complained about a lot. You would add a back bracket and it would not show up in the right places. I was toying around with this a little bit in the limited time I had to look at 27.4. I just couldn't remember the circumstances for which that happens in 27.3 and previous. But apparently they've fixed this. Hopefully that's true. I guess your repeat endings will now appear everywhere they're supposed to. Number 12, music spacing is now correct when layers cross or overlap. Let me just go to the end of the file to demonstrate this. So I've got a passage here in the right hand where I've got, the layer 1 and 2 they're sort of crossed. I've got some unisons going on here between layer 1 and 2. And this so-called fix actually involves a new option in the document options under music spacing. You can see the stem options. This didn't exist before. Let me just pull up a picture of what it looked like in 27.3, this section of the avoid collisions of. You can see it ends with seconds. So now we have this new options for stems. And let me just explain what this does. So right now it's unchecked, and it will be unchecked by default, again, because that's sort of the old way that Finale does it. You'd have to go in here and actually check this if you want this to happen. So with it unchecked and the music spaced, you can see what's going on. Your cross notes in particular, you can kind of see your stems just kind of overlapping the edges of the note heads, which is not really the ideal way to do this. They should be a little bit separated. This option sort of fixes that, and you'll understand what I mean by sort of. So let me just check the stems option, click OK, and just re-music space these measures here. And you'll see what happens with these crossed voices here. It actually corrects it so that the voice 1 just gets put just to the right a little bit of voice 2 here, or layer 2 here. This is actually the correct way to do this. This is a little bit easier to read. This is what Elaine Gould suggests in Behind Bars. This is the way it looks. The problem with this option, and I'm going to go over here to this measure, these two measures, is that it also inexplicably reverses the order of layer 1 and 2 only in certain circumstances, right? You can see that what it's supposed to be is that when you have unisons, layer 2, the second voice is supposed to go to the right. Layer 1, the first voice is supposed to go to the left. It's correct in these two measures here, right? Layer 2 is to the right, layer 2 is to the right. It's incorrect here in both cases with the quarter note here and the half note. It seems that it does this only when there are half notes and closed note heads involved. So you can see the half note head here, the half note head here, the closed eighth note head, and the closed quarter note head. It's reversing the order of these voices here, which I don't understand. This is not how it's supposed to happen. Really what should happen is that there should be just a tiny gap between the layer 1 and layer 2 voice. So although this option does fix this, it does something really weird here, and it doesn't quite fix the unisons the way it's supposed to. There's supposed to be a little bit of a gap. So this sort of seems like a half measure in a way. It does, fix one thing, but kind of causes a problem somewhere else. What's interesting is that what you can do is run the music spacing with the stems option checked to get something like this, and then uncheck it, hit apply, and run it again. And what will happen is it will fix the order of your unisons here so that the second layer is to the right, but it will retain the tiny amount of gap that you have with your crossed voices. The reason for this has to do with the fact that it's actually moving the notes with the special tools way of doing this with the note mover, which means that if you have the options checked here for manual position to ignore, it's going to ignore that. Now, if you actually select clear and have this unchecked, what will happen is it will actually go back to normal the way it was before, with those stems colliding with the edges of the note heads. So it's weird. They sort of fixed one thing but kind of caused another problem by this. I'm hoping that they'll recognize this and possibly fix this. But for now, that stems option is sort of a half measure to fix this particular problem with the crossed voicings. Number 13, ties at the start of a system now draw correctly and do not disappear. Again, this happens in certain circumstances. I just didn't have a lot of time to check everything here, but I believe this is true, and I've seen the problem, and again, it's just under very specific circumstances where this happens, so hopefully that is indeed fixed. Number 14, fix an issue where removing staffs from a linked part can create duplicate staffs. Now that's certainly a rare scenario that I've never encountered. I believe that it was a problem, and I believe that they have fixed it in 27.4. Again, it's just something that I've never encountered because I'm very rarely actually removing staffs from a linked part like that. So hopefully that is indeed the case. Number 15, augmentation dots are now placed correctly on notes with flipped stems. So let me just look at the first 4 measures here, where you have these dots on the 4 notes of the chord here, right? I'm just going to pull up another picture from 27.3, and you'll see what happens when you flip the stem here. You end up with 3 dots instead of 4. It's not like the dot went missing. What's happening is actually the dot on the G and the F here are overlapping. There are 4 dots, they're just 2 of them are overlapping. So this was actually a problem. But now they've fixed that. So if I go in here and actually flip that stem, you can see that all 4 dots are in the appropriate place. So that is indeed a nice little fix. Number 16, measure numbers are now aligned correctly in measures with key signatures and time signatures. Okay, so this bug fix is a complete mystery to me. I have no idea what they did. I thought maybe they were fixing it so that the measure numbers in this scenario would actually go here instead of where it is by default to the right of the time signature, because that's normally where you'd actually want to see that measure number, but that's not actually the case. That actually has not happened in 27.4. This could be a bug related to something else that I'm not familiar with. I'm honestly not sure what this one is a complete mystery to me. If somebody can figure this out, or if I figure it out later, if you can figure it out, put a comment in the YouTube video so that we all know what this is actually doing. And if I figure out, I'll put a comment there as well. But supposedly that's the fix. Number 17, the all channels option for Hyperscribe now remains selected. Okay, sure. I basically never use Hyperscribe, so I will take their word for it. I didn't even test it. Number 18, it is now possible to flip the stems of a beamed group with a shortcut while any note of that group is selected. And indeed, in 27.3, they're part of a beam group. If you have 4 notes or 5 notes, sometimes you would select one of those notes and press the key to flip it, and it just wouldn't flip. I can confirm that in 27.4, it doesn't matter which note you're selecting, it will always flip the whole beam group. So yes, that is definitely fixed. Number 19, fix an issue where deleting the first staff of a document can prevent Human Playback from playing back expressions. I'll have to take their word for it. This is, again, not something I checked. This is not an issue that I often run into, so I'm assuming that's fixed, but that's what they're saying. And number 20, ties on chords that have pairs of seconds no longer collide. You may have noticed this when I zoomed in before regarding the augmentation dots, but here is how those ties look out of the box in 27.3 and previous. You can see that the F tie and the D tie are sort of crossed, so the D tie is going up, the F tie is going down, and that causes this really weird crossed tie situation. It's really only occurs when you have like pairs of seconds like this. And you can see that in 27.4 up here, this is corrected so that the top 2 go up and the bottom 2 go down. So that's a nice fix that hopefully everybody that writes piano music can appreciate. Those cross ties were always an eyesore in my opinion. So yeah, that's actually really nice that they fixed that. All right, and so that's it. That is 27.4. There's a lot of bug fixes, a couple little nice additions that they added. In general, my conclusion is I really recommend that you upgrade to 27.4. Some of these fixes are really worth it in the end. I really hope that they can solve that problem with the music spacing and the layers getting mixed up like that, because that was a sort of a weird thing that they did there, but I'm not sure what's going on there, but maybe that'll get fixed in the future. All right, so thanks for watching. Again, my name is Jason Lafredo. This is Conquering Finale. As always, please, please, please don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you soon on the next video.